Hello, I'm Stene Wandel from Belgium, and you are listening to the Bike Shop Society podcast.
A little less Earl.
We know it's working.
Yeah, definitely working.
How's this one?
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
How about you, Mark?
Yes.
Good?
Yes.
You? Everybody? Whoa.
And welcome to Joe FM,
Yeah, it's
the radio station of Joe Gaspar.
Uh-huh. This is our...
Let us know when you start to record.
Oh, I'm recording right now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right now, big boy.
Okay, feel free. Let's start.
Look at this cast of characters that we have assembled here at Cycle Smithy, the last day of Cycle Smithy. Boss?
Yes, we've got
Well, the last day
a
of the
whole cadre of usual suspects downstairs, current and Peft, and it feels good, and I'm looking at an empty floor that normally would have had 200 bicycles on it, plus a lot of other paraphernalia, and it's basically empty, So, yeah, I took about 3 years to make the decision to wind it up, and at the end of this last winter of spring of 2022, I finally made the decision that it felt right. It was time for me to, after 49 years of having a bike shop, to take a rest.
Yeah. I mean, you've been at it for a long, long time. And, things are tough right now, too, coming out of COVID and all the rest, right? I mean, those were two or three really great seasons.
2020 was a banner year. For a while there, bicycles had the same desirability of as toilet paper did, and as far as, oh Lord, we can't get it, so we better buy any darn thing we can at any price. And I rolled the dice on that one, and when I saw things were tightening up in spring of 2020, and also found that, what's the term again? A necessary...
Essential service.
Yeah, you're an essential
necessary
service.
evil. No, essential service, yes, thank you. Because I was ready to shut down the shop. I thought, it might take a couple of months off this spring.
Yeah.
But of course, a couple of months turned into a much longer period. But they figured the bike shop folks could, risk their health in the name of public transportation or leisure transportation or whatever you want to call it.
Kind of felt like the old days in that year, didn't it?
It did. It was sort of like the old days ramped up a bit.
Yeah.
And the cherry on top of the cake was the locked door policy, where we let one party in. Now there's 2 floors at Cycle Smithy. Was 2 floors at Cycle Smithy. Upper level for bike sales, the lower level for service. And we would let one person or couple, depending on the case, in per floor. So, and I know a lot of other places did this, but there's a line outside, and I had an employee playing doorman, and they were queued up, and the doorman, quote unquote, would kind of find out, what their intentions were, and then direct them accordingly. And when they got in, it was like shooting fish in a barrel, man. It was like, you're you're done. You're,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah.
And you could name your price and
Well, I was able to hold MSRP pricing, and because of the already early machinations of the supply line being challenged, I was having to substitute bikes where if I couldn't get my normal price point bike, I'd step up to the next or the next price point till I was able to find product. So customers that might have normally been a $700 customer were suddenly spending $2,100.
Yeah.
Because it was that, or wait till next year, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People were pretty desperate to get out of the house and and anything to get out and about, right?
Get out of the house and maybe find an alternative to the risks of COVID on public transportation, on a bus or a train.
Yep.
And say, well, on a bike, I'm enough airspace there and enough distancing. It's not that great a risk.
Yeah, it was a different thing down here because being out in the suburbs, I had it wasn't so much public transportation, but it was a need to get out of the house and get some exercise. Health clubs were closed, and
that's right.
So people were looking for an alternative to a new way to work out, and something that was legal because they couldn't. Right, I mean, the government essentially told you to take a walk or ride a bike.
Like once a day. I mean, I live right by the Bloomingdale Trail, the 606, and that was closed. I mean, you couldn't even get on that. So, yeah, bike was a good thing to have.
Yeah, that's Tom Hall, long time. So everybody in the podcast right now is a longtime employee of Cycle Smithy. We have Tom Hall, who is. How long did you work here, Tom?
I think in all about 20 years. I started about 1987. I think the last time I quit, it was 2015.
Do you really ever quit?
Well, I quit 3 times, so yes.
But you're still here, just like me.
I keep coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
And then we have Earl, who's been on the podcast before. Earl, I don't know. You worked here for
Practically all my life since I was 16 years old.
almost a whole run.
Yeah, almost.
Basically-
Even when we were at the old location before we moved in here.
You've basically been raised by Mark.
Practically, he could be my dad if he'd like.
I'd say you probably like him better than your father.
Yes.
Treat me just as good or better.
Yeah.
Kept me employed all these years, all my life practically. So
Well, he was always here. That was the thing.
Right.
He was always open.
always open.
Yeah, I mean, we tell that story all the time to people about how Earl stumbled into the bike shop and never left. He's
Right.
kind of famous for that, and just never, he came in one day and never left.
Yep. That was my hangout, and then it wound up being my career.
Yeah.
If you stick around here long enough, somebody will put a tool in your hand or a broom or something.
Well,
Well, that's what happened.
Yeah.
you're not allowed to hang around here.
No.
You better be doing something.
I said if I was going to hang around, by doggone it, I'm going to put you to work.
Yeah. So, boss, how does it feel? Like, I'm guessing that it hasn't really sunk in yet. That all of this it probably hasn't hit.
Becoming reality.
It won't hit until you come. You don't have a place to go, probably on a weekday or something. You wake up in the morning and there's nowhere to.
Nowhere to go. It's a pretty scary proposition. But no, I honestly, up to this point, it has been such a kind of overwhelming thing to cut the ties from landlords and informing a staff that 4 or 5 months ago that this was something that was in the future and it was definite. Terminating leases and spreading the word with the bike companies, product and or bike manufacturers, suppliers, and then aggressively closing out, discounting, moving 400 odd bikes in 2.5 months or whatever it was. So we got cranking with it, and staff was credibly supportive. I had sort of envisioned when I first broke the news to them that they'd tell me to take a hike and they'd walk out the door, but they, to a man, have stayed on up to this day,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something I'm grateful for, and I'm very moved by that they did stay with me and supported me in this
Till the end.
final winding down of the store. Yes.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, I think you can hear them in the background. They're all hanging out and partying downstairs. It reminds me of the old days of us doing that.
It's true. And I wanted to say one thing. This place has attracted people who are committed to the task. Of like keeping bikes rolling, keeping customers happy, and just sticking around for it. And that was my experience. I got hooked in. The next thing I know, I'm, work 10-hour day. Sure, no problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Joe knows that. We did a 20-hour day once.
more than once, probably. I mean, there was many. Yeah, I mean, the time would fly when we were here.
Yeah.
I mean, the time would fly when we were here, and it was always a good time. I mean, it was never, certainly we had our moments, but it was never, it was a bad time at the bike shop, which was, so there's like an asterisk. Oh, there's an asterisk attached to that, So it's like those guys that run around with that sticker. Is there, a bad day of fishing is way better than a good day at work.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean this was a very special place, and I can't speak for the guys these days, but the 90s and that tail end of the 90s, when prior to the internet, we caught that time before the internet came into play, where people are still buying anything with the word bike attached to it. Bike rack, bike gloves, bike glasses, bike shoes, and so it wasn't just selling the bike, it was everything else that went along with the bike. And I mean, it was kind of a thrill to walk someone through the bike shop and just sell them. Like, they would buy a $500 bike and $500 worth of accessories, a rack to take it home, your helmet, your gloves, your shoes, your glasses, your Oakleys.
What was really amazing to me sometimes was the lawyers and the doctors and the small business owners who would just be kind of jealous. They just wanted to hang out here. They're like, "Oh, your job is so cool." Like, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was those years. I don't know what it. We've never been rock and roll stars, but it felt
like it.
It felt like being in rock and roll, or being someone, because of the people that we met through the shop, right? And a lot of industry people, bartenders and waitresses, and
You remember when Oprah was in the shop?
Yes.
yeah, Oprah, right?
Yeah, we sold her Super V,
Yeah.
Cannondale.
Canada.
Yes.
Man,
We delivered it over to her studios.
Oprah came with
her
Stedman,
trainer.
and at least one time I saw them, they were up here looking at bikes, and I walked up and I said, "May I help you?" And they said, "We're okay right now." And I started to walk away, and they, "Oh, wait a minute, don't go too far." And all right, I came back, and they're very nice, and helped them out. What was interesting about that time was, I remember vividly. I might have like a homeless person with a flat tire on their wheelchair, and since the store is not wheelchair friendly, they'd stay on the foyer on the landing, and I'd go there, and they'd kind of pop over and sit on the steps, and I'd fix the flat on the wheelchair, and they'd roll out, and I
On the
do what I
sidewalk.
can with them. But then before the hour's up, a talking head off a TV would come in, and it was like this this broad expanse of humanity that would come in. It could be a tradesman, someone working, a bricklayer, or a contractor, or a policeman.
Remember the Jesus people used to come in here?
The Jesus people from Uptown, yes, and there was a whole cadre of them, and they all loved bicycles, and they were that crew was interesting because a significant percentage of them had gone through a cycle of, gee, I died, but somehow I nearly died, or I did die and I was revived.
Yeah.
And, now I'm not doing what nearly or did kill me.
Right.
And now I'm trying a new way. And, occasionally they'd whip out the little pamphlets, with little, quotes from the Bible, and try to, save us too,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
But
That's their
I mean,
mission.
it was like, okay, you're all right, take care of your bicycle, But no, they were sincere people, and some had, really, incredible stories, really. Yeah.
It really took me a minute to get used to them. A bunch of hairy, hippie-looking freaks, but they love bikes, and they were looking for, I just need this bolt. I just need this one bolt, and it looks like this, and it does that. And I'm like, okay. And then, I got to know them, and they were really good and decent guys. And when I moved into my new place and I needed appliances, they were like, we got you covered. And they showed up with a truck, with a stove and a refrigerator, and unloaded it and installed it for me. I mean, it's just the variety of people that you meet in a bike shop. It really is amazing.
People helping people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of
The variety of people you meet at a bike shop, but specifically this bike shop.
yeah.
Because I run a bike shop right now, and I meet a variety of people, but I got to say, sometimes compared to being here, sometimes it feels like I'm in a witness protection program in like some little town somewhere, where I'm just kind of like those movies where the gangsters are kind of missing their fancy, cool life. And
I'm nobody now. I'm nobody.
yeah. Well, I mean,
I ordered spaghetti marinara. I got pasta with ketchup.
It's exactly how I feel sometimes out there, it's fine. I mean, it's cool. It's what it is. It's a suburban bike shop, and I get enough people that come out from the city to ride in the Forest Preserve that it keeps me interested and into it. But man, compared to being here, you would have, on a Saturday afternoon, like you said, and I've said this I've said this myself, that you'd have the bike. The bike didn't discriminate. You'd have the homeless guy. You would have the top politician in the
All types
town
of people.
coming in here. I mean, the array of people I would work with on an average Saturday here was crazy. I mean, I ended up working with Mel Gibson in a movie through the bike shop. I met someone here who ended up within 2 or 3 days, I was on set, crashing cars with Mel Gibson.
And also, we don't forget, we also served a lot of sport athletes and news anchors.
Oh, yeah.
Sport athletes and news anchors we also dealt with.
Yeah, local television people and radio people, and that's what I say.
Yes.
That's why I said, it felt like being kind of, you weren't in rock and roll, but it felt like you were in rock and roll. It felt you were friends with all of these people, and it was. And it was also a time where local celebrities, local television and radio people were kind of like rock stars in Chicago. I mean, it was, like I said, prior to the internet and all of that, where, your local news was it. Your local radio people were those guys were the stars, and held a little bit more glamour, I guess, than what it does these days, Plus it was just, we haven't even touched on the bikes. We had the coolest bikes in town.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the coolest, latest, greatest bikes in town. That was a given. We didn't even talk about the bikes.
No. Well, I started here in the late 80s, and I remember coming in, and there were funny bikes.
Yeah.
With the small front wheel and the big back wheel, and it's like, oh, well, this place is pretty cool.
Yeah. Battagline time trial bikes, like Carrera time trial bikes. There was Bob Jackson. There was a whole row when I started here. There was a row of Bob Jacksons and Colnagos, and I mean, just laying around.
Not to mention Yamaguchi. I remember him.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. We also probably was considered one of the highest high-class bike dealers in the country at that time.
Yeah.
We sold a lot of high-end bikes. And we sold a lot of stuff other shops didn't sell. If you want a decent bike, something racy, touring, we got it. And if
Well-
we didn't have it, we go out our way to get it.
And we had the cool stuff. So, I mean, like Mark, you stocked all the coolest. It was the coolest stuff. And it was when someone would have to come to a bike shop and buy it from you.
I couldn't help myself though, and I would, I would see like the first introduction. I remember there was a bike called Trimble,
Yeah.
and there were two brothers. One Trimble
Brent,
designed the Kestrel bikes, which became a fairly significant brand and was one of the very first monocoque carbon fiber bikes. I think their first year was maybe 1989. The lesser brother designed a mountain bike about the same year. And it was a wild design. It was monocoque carbon fiber, but in an X form, like a cross form.
Right.
And I remember getting the bike in, and it was too cool. I mean, I got it in, and bright fire engine red, fancy cranks, Ringley cranks. I think carbon fiber Spinergy or X wheels. What are they called, Spinergy? Or?
Yeah, there was RevX. I remember you couldn't sell it because it was number 13, and that's like a special number to you.
Well, that was part of it. That was part of it. But I did try for a while to sell it, and the eventual resolution was I gave it to Gretchen.
There you go.
So there were a number of bikes over the years that I thought were really special. I would get them in the shop, and maybe it was a little too ahead of the rest of the crowd, or maybe it was just too far out in any time frame. And so some of those bikes went to Gretchen.
Yeah.
And, she would tell me sometimes she'd be riding her, carbon fiber Colnago first generation down the lakefront, which, of course, I had taken off the drop handlebars and put flat handlebars on. And the racer guys would ride by and just kind of like shake their head no, like they couldn't get it, And Gretchen got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
God bless her. She was, yeah, whatever, ride on,
Yeah.
It was nice.
Because some things you get in, they're just too pretty to sell.
Yeah. Maybe because it was pink also.
I remember the Trimble road bike with the little glove box in the center. It was like a diamond-shaped monocoque frame.
yes.
Right.
Weird
There was an
little-
attempt at making a very aerodynamic road or time trial road bike.
Right.
And it had, the reason it had that little window for the, quote, glove box was to give it a valid excuse that it wasn't just blatant aerodynamic a covering of the frame, which would have made it illegal. But since we have this little stupid door that'll fit in like a pack of cigarettes, that's about it. It was like, no, this has a reason for being. So yeah, I think I sold that to a guy in Sweden or somewhere in Europe. Yeah, after I had it on the ceiling for like a long time, 10 years or 15 years.
Yeah, I remember the first time we got a Manitou in here, one of the ultralight. They had a seat tube that was so large they had to have a custom band, like a universal band, made for one of those.
Like a water hose clamp.
Like a water hose
automotive
clamp.
trades, yeah.
And like we're unpacking it, and take it out of the box, and you just threw it to me, like you tossed it into the air into my arms. It was just like, ah!
Yeah, that was pretty typical
It's like,
around here.
oh, it's really light. Here, check it out.
Expecting something 20, 30 pounds, and all of a sudden it's,
It was so light. I was
Yes.
just like, what?
what? This is a bike?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the case,
I felt really privileged to be able to build so many beautiful bikes
Right.
while I was here. I mean,
Yes.
it was just like ridiculous sometimes,
Yes.
yeah, and the freedom that you gave us to do it. Like we would just go shopping in this super high-end bike shop and put together, like, here, build something cool. We're slow, build something cool.
Right.
And we would just walk around and, like, I mean, whatever you dream of, you could build it here.
Take a frame, put it together.
Yeah,
We also had the clientele that would go for that.
Yes.
yes.
They
Well, I
wanted
mean,
it special, and all those ex-college athletes were just fantastic because they would come at me, all 7'2" of them. They had to duck when they walked through the shop. They were so tall, and they would take a stock bike and go out and break it because that's what happens when you're 7'2" and 320 pounds.
yeah.
And they'd come in and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I broke it." It's like, "Oh, Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I think you need some custom wheels. Oh, okay, they'd say.
Yeah, and they were fine with it because they were.
Some of them we wind up selling a custom built frame to
Yeah.
accommodate them
Well-
for their height and their, all their size and
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you, Northwestern.
Yeah, well, that was another part of like our clientele was that, you did have all of these ex-athletes, these guys you would watch on a Sunday afternoon who didn't make it into the pros and were just roaming Lincoln Park now, being a stockbroker or working downtown in some sales job. And
I mean, they played football to get an education.
yeah, and we're putting it to good use and
Right,
could afford to buy whatever they wanted at the bike shop, right?
That was beautiful.
It was
I
very
enjoyed
cool.
doing that. I enjoyed doing that, making a special bike for someone, and because no one else would do it for them, and they found out they can get a bike built to their, statue of their size and everything, and their weight and everything. And we've pleased quite a few people doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Where a stock bike, they couldn't buy one that fits them.
Yeah, we saved cycling for a lot of people. Like
Yes, we did.
people that were ready to give up on riding a bicycle. We made it so that hey, you know what? There are wheels. We can put some tandem wheels on. We'll build you some tandem wheels that aren't going to break, and we'll put some heavy duty tires on there, and we'll make this thing bomb proof, and you can ride to work.
Yes.
And people were like, the smile on their face, and yeah, I mean, it was always that's something that's really stuck with me is trying to keep people in the sport and riding and accommodating them.
Yes.
It was also the place of last resort. If every other shop had given up on something, a stuck seat post, a rusted something, a broken frame, they'd bring it here, and the more damaged it was, the more Mark would like it.
Well, I mean, that was the most satisfying thing when you'd see a guy sneak in here from another bike shop with a problem. You're like, hey, I know you work down the street. What are you doing in here? Some guys were cool enough to admit that they were bringing it over from another bike shop, but oftentimes it would be that somebody would sneak in here with something that they couldn't figure out, and
We do it.
Yeah, oh yeah, we would do it.
It was always a good day when Mark got the torch out.
Yeah,
Yes.
I always enjoyed that, and certainly the challenge of something. And most of the time, I was lucky enough, or whatever, to solve it. And no, it was. I mean, you usually had a customer that was, as you mentioned, Joe. They'd maybe had been to several shops, or gee, the last shop broke this thing and they can't fix it on my bike, and they're saying I need to buy a new bike, and they did it, but they're not fixing it because they can't. And it did make me rise to the occasion. A little bit of pride in there, and
a little bit.
it was fun. It was fun, and sometimes a large hammer was involved,
Yes.
or a 3-foot long lever bar or something, and
Or 2 or 3 other employees.
Yeah,
I remember
6
times where it was a kind of a group thing. We were all
Yes.
just like huffing and puffing. Twist the other way, twist left, twist right.
And let's not.
I found it very bonding and
Always,
enjoyable.
always.
No, it
always
was-
enjoyable.
it was great.
Yeah.
And
Always up for a challenge.
I think this is a moment. Let's remember that 6'3" monster that we had working downstairs for years and years for you. Who looked like Santa Claus, right? Kelly, Harold Kelly, who was like a fixture at this place. Just he was known throughout the Chicago cycling community and a friend to all of us. And well, maybe not to you, Earl, but your mortal enemy. But
They were like an old married couple.
oh no, I know, but it's yeah, and just another guy, just one of those characters that that went away too soon, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, working on a bike downstairs with him and you and Mark, and I mean, sometimes all 4 or 5 of us involved in some sort of crazy, some sort of crazy repair or pulling a seat post out and somebody up and yanking and pulling and fire and running to Home Depot 2 or 3 times throughout the day to buy various bits and pieces. That was a fun day at the shop.
It was one recollection I have about Kelly that I won't forget is his malady at the end required him to carry around a portable oxygen bottle. And it was a scenario where he wasn't coming back from it. And when he started to do that, he came to me and said, "Mark, is it all right if I continue to work here carrying around this little green oxygen bottle?" I guess he was concerned that maybe it might upset a customer or something. I'm not even sure really why he asked me. And I said, "No, of course, Kelly, you can work here as long as you want." And he says, "Well, I'd like to do that. I'd like to work here as long as I can." And he obviously was cognizant at the time that time was short for him at that point. He worked physically as long as he could here with the oxygen bottle, which was for several months, period, till finally it overcame him. And when he did leave the shop and went into care at the hospital, he was gone within a week, as I recall it. And but he, his remaining time that he was able to spend in most part, he chose to spend here. And I always found it very moving that he chose that, and I was honored to have him work here with his with the oxygen bottle, at his side. Very recognizable man, and this customers would always, come in and kind of refer to him as Santa Claus was sort of the common one because he had
Or
large.
Jerry Garcia.
Yeah.
And but no, Kelly was definitely all right. Absolutely.
And Mark, so how long, the shop was here, how long, officially? So you started the shop across down the street a little bit?
Right, it was 2441 and a half. I always have a half in the address. I don't know why. It was about a 600 square foot shop. I started that in 73 with the help of my dad. But when the first day we were open, when the shop was formally opened, I was on my own at that point. I slept in the shop about the first 6 months. There was a sink and a toilet, but there was no proper bath or shower, so I had to occasionally visit friends' houses that I, would shower at, and if it was a warm enough summer night, there was a very nice fountain in the center of the sort of elongated gardens that are immediately south of the flower house in Lincoln Park, like 1890 sort of glass flower house. And there was a circular fountain in the center that had bronze swans in the center and would run all night, And I remember going down there a few times at 1 or 2 in the morning, and no one was looking, so I was able to hop in au natural, But I noticed by next spring they had attached a fence around the perimeter.
Really?
I don't know why. I'm not sure about that.
Can't imagine.
No.
Yeah.
It must have gotten word.
It was refreshing, though. It was very nice on a hot summer night.
And how many years were you there at the?
From 73 to 78. In 78, the man in this location, Richard Wexner, had a Schwinn dealership called Parkway Schwinn. Now, I had worked for Richard back in 72, maybe even early 73. I'd worked for him.
At this shop?
At this location, and his father also had a location out in Schaumburg. The manager of the place would, he lived not far from me in the city, and we'd drive out. He was nice enough to drive me back and forth when I worked there. It's funny. His dad was a car salesman. I don't know if it was new or used, but he saw the excitement in bicycles and decided to open a bike shop in a strip mall out in Schaumburg.
That was Schaumburg Schwinn.
Yeah. And Schwinn, God bless him, would sell the man anything. I remember going in there, and about half the shop was like an ad hoc warehouse where I'd open boxes and find hundreds of like green bicycle grips. I mean, something in a color choice in a quantity and a uniformity that would work if you were a wholesaler supplying the Midwest. But they knew they had a man interested in buying those quantities, and they weren't going to dissuade him buying anything and everything. So he had vast quantities of stuff.
Wow.
He was gone by spring. So I think they maybe oversold him a little bit. But
And this location was a Schwinn shop originally, wasn't it?
well, this was the son's shop, and he sort of knew what time it was. He had the notoriety, or the fame, is the proper word, of selling more Schwinn Paramounts, their handmade top shelf racing bike, than any other single location on the planet. So I mean, and plus selling the entire gamut of the Schwinn line, from Schwinn Stingrays through Suburbans and Continentals and Varsities and the whole nine. But long story short, I opened a '73 Richard for the Schwinn dealership here. In '78, things were starting to calm down. The bloom was coming a little bit off the rose for bicycle sales. It wasn't, it started to calm down from the earlier '70s, and he wanted someone to take over his lease. He wanted to go on to bigger and better things, and I took over the lease here. He introduced me to the man that owned the property, and
Bob Simon.
that's right. I
Bob Simon.
remember going to his office downtown. I had long hair, unkept long hair, and a scrappy beard. And
Yep.
he kind of looked at me and said, "Well, do you think you can pay the rent?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And he said, "Okay, let's give it a try." And it worked out.
Wow.
It worked out. So I was. That was in '78, and I've been here in this location since '78 till today, September 10th, 2022. And it's the last day we're open for business today.
Man, what a run. What a run.
Seriously.
What a run. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah, and it's kind of flown by, like everybody says, and but I'm looking forward to doing with what I want with my days, and playing around with old bicycles and old vehicles and old toys and stuff, and
Well, you say that you want to do what you want with your days, but I think in many ways this was what you wanted to do with your days.
It is true. It is true. Yeah.
I mean, because there were there were times Tom and I and Chris Menars there were more than enough people to kind of keep this place from burning down.
Well, barely. I mean, there are a lot of times where I had the shop just insanely understaffed and criminally understaffed, perhaps is the better word.
Yeah.
And I got 2 or 3 guys for a busy Saturday in the summer, and that was wrong.
But
Right,
you love to be here.
And he was giving us all special tasks to do because, you're not doing anything right now? Okay, I want you to build this custom bike, and, I want so-and-so to clean out the toilet and this and that and the other thing. I'm like, okay, all right. In 10 minutes, we're just going to ignore everything you said, okay? As soon as the customers
and hopefully
come
I
in.
forget what I said.
Yeah.
I would come in the morning with all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and with this laundry list of things I wanted to get accomplished, and I'd grind on with you do this, you do that, and then after about the first 5 to 10 minutes, where we had 6 to 10 customers coming with that period, reality sank back in that there's business, and
There's people.
my busy work or my special projects are going to go on a very far back burner because we have real immediate business that all hands on deck and then some.
Right. This guy wants to buy $1,000 set of wheels, and he wants me to install it right now. Can I do it? Oh, of course. Take care of him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and and the shop was never. I mean, I see these new bicycle shops. I see all of these fancy, no dirt in the shop. Nobody's dirty. Their hands aren't dirty. They're wearing all kind of matching white
Uniforms
white shirts and some
everything,
sort of
yes.
logo on them. And
That's unnatural.
yeah, and I never experienced that. I never worked in a shop that way, but I just don't know how all that works, And people were always willing. They didn't really care what the shop looked like. They were here because because of the shop, because of the work we did, because of the people here at the shop. You know, I mean, they were here
We
for a
always
bigger
had-
reason.
We always had what they needed. You know, we would keep every size seat post in stock all the time.
Yeah.
Because, you know, guess what?
You never know when
Seat
one will
posts,
come in that
things
you
get
need.
stolen.
Yeah, yeah.
And it
Yes.
was just, you know, after a while, people are like, oh, well, they've always got what I need. I'll just keep going there.
It's good.
We did have everything that everyone needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was rare not to walk back and come out with
Nothing.
the bit or piece that somebody needed.
Yeah.
Even if we had to pull it off of something to make that person happy.
Even like an obscure English 5-speed internal hub. Oh, yeah, I've got that here. Sure.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was always
It's going
fun.
to take me 40 minutes to find it, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you know, those days where Mark would say, "Someone's coming in from Iowa, and they're going to use this tool, okay? So just let them back." It was like the fender roller or something, you know, that you had, and you'd give instructions that a couple of guys were going to come in with a box of like old stuff and just start using this tool. Let them do it, and you know, like just that collection of your friends, your old. Because Mark is a bike collector as well, so that's all. I mean, that's a different. Mark, I have plans for you. I have plans for your future, but that includes all the old bike stuff and the old bike talk, right, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean those are episodes and episodes and episodes. Each one of those bikes.
Stuff we went to.
Let him retire for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll focus on the bike on the closing of the shop, but we're looking. I mean, I'm looking forward to having more time to talk to you a little bit about that stuff and learn about all of those things and kind of unpack, unpack all this stuff that you've, you know, all this information,
All the
you have.
memories.
Yeah, not just memories, but I mean just information, just, you know, like stuff that you know, because we were always busy working here, and it was a little difficult to really comprehend everything that you were talking about when people would come in and visit, and you know, we'd hear you talk about the old bikes, but it was hard to digest all that information, wasn't it, Tom? I mean,
Well, yeah, you had to like stop and help somebody figure out their French valve.
yeah, or how to
Yes.
use a U-lock or something, right?
Or something similar.
Yeah, and it was interesting stuff, and I always knew that I was amongst all of this really cool, you know, stuff, antique bikes. I mean, people would travel throughout from around the country to see a certain bike or to take a picture. And so I was always conscious of how cool it was, but I don't know that I don't know the stories of a lot of the things that were hanging around here.
Well, on the old bikes, a lot of the collectors I've met that pursue vintage bicycles approach it from a reasonable point of view. Maybe they just collect Victorian stuff prior to 1900, or maybe they just collect Americana balloon tire stuff from the 1930s, or the muscle bikes, you know, the little Stingrays with the high handlebars, or maybe just lightweight European stuff from whatever decade trips their trigger. It could be the 1930s or it could be the 1980s. And probably 90% of the people I deal with take an approach where they settle on one era that they find interest in. I've taken a broader approach where I collect sort of the span of bicycles. I'm more of a generalist. I don't have the really specific encyclopedic knowledge that someone who specializes in just one family of old bicycles. So I take it in a quite broad sense. And
I mean, you've always been drawn to anything weird, you know, anything with like no seat tube or made out of wood or bamboo or something. You know, there was always something odd passing through the shop.
Yes, certainly esoteric or even perhaps bikes that were designed on shaky ground.
Yeah, well,
are interesting. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, equally interesting could be like a 100-year-old bike that has somehow been survived, and not by intention, but by fate.
Right.
You'll find a bike from, 1895, and the original nickel plate is good. The original leather is still intact and hasn't torn. The bike hasn't been damaged. So condition, also provenance. A bike that might have been used in a major race or might have been owned by, one of the major individuals that owned like a bike company and so on. So there's a lot of different areas of interest, not just stylistic. There's also condition, there's provenance, and the joy of just kind of stumbling on a unique bike that you didn't have knowledge prior to that existed, because they're, bicycles have been made from the. I've had bicycles that were made when Abraham Lincoln was still alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, and there's bikes. There's bikes that are earlier than that too. But
It really was remarkable, the innovation of the early bike industry, especially before cars became a thing.
The innovation and the excitement and the you're looking at the 1880s and 1890s, and those are bikes that are probably the first truly recreational vehicle in the history of mankind. And they weren't cheap. I mean, you're talking a high wheel bike, or which at the area was called an ordinary bike, because that was the ordinary bike of the day. The big wheel bicycle, and that might have sold for $100 in the 1880s, which had probably been a substantial down payment on a house. And a lot of ritual involved with them. I mean, you had riding clubs on that type of bike that were based on military regimen, and both in their tunics and how they rode, and a lot of other details. So, really, you go from the different eras, and there's really some fascinating stuff in it all.
Just say goodbye. Say goodbye, Earl. We're losing a man. We're losing Earl Russell. Always the first to leave. No, always.
He's the first to come in every day.
Always the first to come in, and always the
right.
first to leave. Yeah, no, that's a tradition. And
I've given him a key for years, and he's always the first to come in.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, he'd been here at 3:00 in the morning working on bikes. 3:30 in the morning. He was famous for doing that kind of stuff. Oh, then
Yes.
now he's back.
Yes.
How are you? You see, you don't leave. You never leave.
I know.
Oh,
I'm a fixture here.
yeah, you are.
My home away from home.
Right.
It is your home. Yeah. How do you feel? I mean, how do you feel after all of this? This is it. This is.
How do
like,
I feel after all
Yeah.
this?
How do you feel? You've been here almost as long as he is.
I feel very saddened, and basically,
Because you've been here. You've been here the whole run of this store.
yeah, with
So-
Mark. Yes,
with Mark,
I've been working with Mark practically, like I say, 49, 50 years.
Mhm.
And besides having other side jobs at times, but I feel very saddened. Neighborhood feels saddened about it. I've talked to a lot of people who live in the neighborhood and who come by here all the time. And yes, I will totally miss it. It goes to my heart to leave. But, you got to continue your life. And basically, I really came here, even on my days off during all year round, I come here just for the hell of it, whether I'm working or not. I'll come in here, look at the store, see what's happening, come in here sometimes just to use the men's room or something. I'm in the neighborhood, I still drop by. But then again, yes, it's like home away from home. And basically, I have to honestly say, from where I grew up and how I started my career as a teenager working with Mark, basically, I have to totally and honestly say it kept me out of mischief.
Amen.
Yeah.
It kept me out of mischief.
Yep.
And
I think you did a lot better than a lot of your peers.
yes. And basically, it kept food in my mouth, clothes on me, and a roof over my head.
And more than that, I think it gave you a sense of purpose and a sense of
Yes.
value,
Yeah.
Yes. And I appreciate what he did for me. I'm quite sure he appreciates having a solid, dependable employee for as long as I've been here. And then again, like I say, I will miss it. It goes to my heart. Come here every morning. I've got a lot of compliments from people. I've been criticized by people, complimented by a lot of people, which goes with the business. But I don't think I'll ever be the same.
Well, you guys are the last of a breed, a type of, the guys the older guys, to Tom and I, you guys were the older guys in the shop. You were the ones that we learned from, and we've been, I know there's not very many of you guys around anymore.
There's only very few, if any, in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
I can probably name 2 or 3 more, and that's about it.
Yeah, you're arguably one of the best at what you did in this entire city, and the entire city of Chicago, and for what you did and the amount of work that you turned out. I mean, the amount of work that you turned out day in, day out, tune-ups, and
everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing workload. I don't know that anybody, at your peak could, hold a wrench to you.
Well, I appreciate it, and also what I like doing about fixing bikes is that customer comes in, want their bike fixed, and I really appreciate myself and others after I fix their bike, and customer has no problems with it, and they come back and they compliment you, and then they give you good comments online.
Yeah, well, you had a lot of people who came faithfully every year for their tune-up.
Yes, yeah, they come in. Sometimes they personally ask for me to work on their bike, in which that says something for you and says something about the shop.
Yeah, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you help. I mean, you've helped me out at my shop, and and I knew you from here, and I've always but there I really got we're pretty close quarters over there. I get to watch you work, every day. You're right there, and I know how much you care about what you do, and you set a very high standard. I mean, I don't know that you set an incredibly high standard. For your work, and you hold yourself to a very high, to a very high level.
I have pride in my work. I don't like fix a bike for a customer, and all of a sudden that where I'm supposed to do something and fix, and then the customer comes back for it, and it's not working. No, I feel very bad about that. Like I didn't do my job, and I didn't give them what they paid for.
Cycle Smithy was the kind of place where you were allowed to be compulsive.
Yeah,
It had to be perfect.
Like
you were allowed to make it perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we kind of prided ourselves on not seeing stuff come back.
Right. We had guys. Who was that? Mark Abjan. He'd been in Tour de France 5 times, and he came here for his work. And I did a bike for him, and then he came and we did another one, and then he brought his friend over, and we did one for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good thing.
We also had a lot of people who had bikes previously worked on, fixed at other shops, and then again, they come here and they says. After we fix what the problem is, and they said, well, why couldn't the other shop do it? And I couldn't say, but I said, I have pride in my work, and I don't like a bike to go out where I'm hesitant on the work that I did. I want to be decent. I'm not perfect, but I like to do a good job, and I like you to be satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you.
Well, what I'd like to say about Earl was that you were really the mainstay of my service department. That I could count on you 4, 5, and sometimes even 6 days a week to turn out,
numerous amounts.
Anywhere from 6, 8, 9, 10, even more tune-ups, complete tune-ups, not flat tires, not minor adjustments, but complete tune-ups, and invariably some of those would be very challenging. Very challenging. Yes. Corroded parts, rusted cables, things that you had to go above and beyond, and do it in a timely fashion. The work would come in. It would come in like the tide, where you would get X number of bikes in, and we'd be able to say, yes, you can come back, and the bike will be done in 2, 3, 4 days. And that ability to have that constant influx of major tune-ups come in all spring and all summer, as opposed to the alternative, which had been turning the work away or having some sort of, back room warehouse thing where you say, well, you can bring the bike in and maybe it'll be done in a month, and we'll just put it in the pile with the other, 200 bikes back there, and, we'll call you when we get to it. I never liked running the business that way, and you gave me the ability to serve these people, to serve them expeditiously and safely and satisfactorily. Everything else is going on in the shop. Bikes are being sold. People are asking technical questions on the phone. A lady needs her tires filled. A fellow needs to buy some accessory and whatnot. But at the core of it, getting those tune-ups done is what really, I feel, confirms the veracity of a bike shop. That yes, we can fix bikes, and yes, we can fix a hell of a lot of them, and we can do it in a prompt, satisfactory fashion.
Yes.
And you're the man that allowed that. I've had other employees, and I would give them a similar job, and they might be good at doing other things, but when I tried to get some people to do tune-ups, by comparison, I saw that you were above and beyond.
You were the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were.
Thank you.
Yeah, still are.
Still
Yeah,
are.
yeah, you still are. You're there.
I'm glad Mark gave me the opportunity to do it, and basically by me being free to come here and have my own set hours and everything, which he gave me. He didn't care what time I come in or leave, just as long as I got the work done.
Yeah. You had your keys and your alarm code, and you just come in and do your thing.
My theory is I used to not leave the store until the following day's repairs, what they're scheduled for, are done. Because I don't like the idea of a customer coming in here, which it never happened. They come in to pick their bike up and it's not done. That is very embarrassing.
I should have added that. Yes, that I had been able to rely on you all those years to get the bike done on the promised date, and that's a huge thing. Huge thing. Because as you say, the alternative is disappointing for everybody. It's awkward for the people working in the shop. It's demoralizing, and the customer is disappointed.
Yeah, the customer's upset.
But you say it's going to be done Wednesday.
I'd be sure Wednesday. I would either do it
it's something I've strived to attain with the shop, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a good place to end it for right now. I think that I just wanted to capture this moment in time for just little the last day of Cycle Smithy. We just closed the doors, and emotions are kind of raw right now, and we're all still kind of here, and I think
very emotional.
Maybe down the road it'll be kind of a cool thing to listen to and remember this day.
It was a good idea, Joe, to capture this. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah. Well, no.
Joe, in closing, I hope you've brought a dollar bill on a fishing line. I remember the nights, and for a long time I wasn't aware you were doing it, but I know you'd stay in the evenings, late in the evenings on date nights like Friday, Saturday night, and on a summer night, and you'd have a dollar bill on a fishing line out in front of the shop, and the fishing line would go into our locked door with the lights off, and you'd be kind of crouching down there and, basically totally humiliating, whatever stud was out there with his girl.
Yes.
And I, as far as I know, they never broke the glass.
No,
I don't know why, but kudos to you.
Well, thank you.
It's a memorable thing, and for years we had that dollar bill. I think you weighted it with a quarter, so it wouldn't flutter around in the wind.
Yeah.
We had it by the register for 15 years or something.
I remember every once in a while I would get scolded.
I have it
More
at,
than scolded.
I have it at home in my toolbox.
Oh, do you really? You have?
You got it?
You have
gave
it?
it to me.
Oh,
Good.
nice. I'm glad somebody kept that.
There was one particularly dedicated person who actually got it from us.
Oh, yeah,
you
more
know?
than every.
I think she might have been homeless and maybe a little bit insane, but she really enjoyed getting that bill off of that fishing line.
Oh, yeah.
And she just shook it in our faces like, I got you.
That was the best part. It was just $1. It was
Yeah.
I know. It was like,
I know.
awesome. Good on you.
Oh, it was such a relief at the end of a busy Saturday, here at the shop, where everybody would just it was like,
It's like our candid camera.
It was
Yes.
before there was YouTube, before it was any of
Yeah,
that
right.
stuff.
Imagine
Yeah.
if we had caught that on camera. That
we'd
would have been great.
We'd be millionaires now, Mark.
Oh, well.
We have till the end of the month if you want to give it a go.
Okay,
World's funniest video.
there you go.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.